Day 10. In today's lesson, I'm going to teach you how to use the pen tool. But before we get started, I just want to say a couple quick things. Please be patient with yourself. The pen tool is a tough tool to master. But once you learn it, you'll wonder why it even ever seemed so tough in the beginning. But it's just one of those tools that's a little tricky. Okay, here's something I recommend. Keep your left hand on your keyboard. You're going to be using a lot of shortcut commands, specifically Command, Option, or Alt, and the Shift key. All right, those are things that I come back to often enough. Now, if you can't find your pen tool, if your toolbar is set up like mine, right, it's the third one down on the left-hand side, and if you don't see it, just click and hold. The shortcut for it is also the letter P, so it can bring that open for you. If you're clicking and holding, you'll see this whole flyout menu. You'll see a couple of tools that we're gonna use. A lot of them are almost automatic if we're selected on the pen tool. The Add Anchor Point tool, the Delete Anchor Point tool. They're not something that I ever really use the shortcuts for, but they're plus and minus. And then you have the Anchor Point tool, which comes in handy here and there. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to start really basic, and we are going to draw a straight line. Okay, so just so I can see it, I'm going to come up here and make sure my stroke is about 3. And it doesn't matter what color, black, blue, red, yellow, whatever, it doesn't even matter. Okay, so I'm going to click one time, just once. And then I'm going to notice that it gives you a preview of what your line is going to look like. Well, if you don't care that it's straight, then no worries. You can click wherever you want that line to go. But if you want it to be straight, press and hold that Shift key down, and you'll get a nice straight line. And then when you click, it will basically bring that in. Now notice this. Let's say I want this line to end right here, and it looks like it wants to keep going. What I can do is I can press that Command key on my keyboard, just a quick shortcut, and as long as I'm holding it down, I'll see this white arrow. And I can click away from the line and just kind of finish that off. Okay? Now, that comes in handy whenever I want to draw a line of some sort, a path of some sort, without closing it off. And I'll show you how to close the path in just a minute. Okay, so together, let's do this. Let's just draw a zigzag line and get used to the clicking, right? Super easy, super easy. Go as far as you would like to, but then practice pressing that Command key. I know that's what it is on a Mac, but PC, maybe the Control key. I'm not sure if it has the same functionality because the Control key on my Mac keyboard does not do that. So anyways, Command if you're on a Mac, but it turns it into that white arrow. I can click off the path, and there I go. Okay. All right. So this is great. Now, let's say I want to come back in and continue drawing. What I could do is kind of hover over that, and my pen tool will look a little slightly different, but I can just click right in and jump right back in. Okay. All right. Super easy. That's the easy part. Now let's talk about curves. Curves are slightly different because you're going to deal with something called handles. So what we're going to do is just a simple kind of wave pattern. We're going to try to carry it all the way across the page. Don't worry about it being super even, but do the best you can. Okay, so just follow along with me. I'm going to go ahead and click one time. And then notice if I hover over that, do you see how it turns into the pen tool with the minus sign? I can delete that anchor point. And I can also, there's some places where I can add an anchor point if I'm close enough. Okay, so like I said, I don't ever really use those unless, I don't ever use shortcuts for them because they just kind of automatically happen. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go kind of up and to the right, so maybe at a 45-degree angle, and then I'm going to click and I'm going to drag. Now notice you have these two, they're called directional handles, and you have this back one, right? And the back one is controlling that first curve that you are already looking at. This front one that my mouse is currently on is going to control the next curve, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Now, a lot of times, sometimes it doesn't matter, if this is completely horizontal or vertical. But like, let's just say it is. If I hold that shift key down, that will make sure that that handle stays perfectly horizontal or at a 45 or vertical. Okay, so if that's important to you, which it's going to be for this, so press that shift key down. Let's get used to using your left hand and just kind of drag that handle out. Okay, now what I said before is this handle right here is going to control where the next curve goes. So know how the next curve, like it's going to lean into it, whether I'm going down or if I'm going up, it's always kind of curving, like the round part of the curve is headed towards that. So anyways, I'm going to go down and to the right, and I'm going to kind of pay attention to where that is, but I'm just going to click one time, okay? Then I'm going to go down and to the right, and this is where it starts to get repetitive. But I'm going to go down and to the right, and then I'm going to click. I'm holding that shift key down. I'm kind of dragging it to the right, getting that next curve. And then the center line, right, where all these points are going to be, those are just one clicks. So one click there. And I'm not using any kind of guide to like help. So if I'm not making it perfectly straight, I'm not going to worry about it too much. So again, 45 degrees off to the right. Click and drag. I'm holding that shift key down. Go down, click, 45 degrees, click and drag. And you're just going to keep doing this just so you can kind of get the feel for it. Right? Not complicated, but it might take you a few tries. And if yours isn't looking like mine, you might want to start again, and that's totally fine. Again, like I said in the very beginning, be patient. So see how that one's kind of going backwards? I don't really like that. Basically, I started that too soon. So I'm just going to press Command or Control Z, back it up a little bit, and then kind of fix that up to where how I want it. Click, 45, click and drag, holding Shift every time. You don't have to, but I prefer to. It just kind of helps my OCD, I suppose. Click and drag. Single click. Okay, so take that as far as you want. Start over as many times as you want, but that's kind of just the start of this whole thing. Command and click away, so that way you have that line. Okay, let's do line number 3. We're going to take some of this concepts for both of these, but what I'm going to do is show you how to clip one of those handles. All right, so I'm just going to basically draw another kind of type of wave. So I'm going to click one time, and then I'm going to, again, go to my like 45 degree angle, and on this one, I'm going to click and drag and pull it forward. If you want to hold that shift key, do that. Okay, now I have these two handles, but I want this right here to be sharp. I don't want it to look like that. I don't want it to have a curve in it. So what I'm going to do is, if I click on this center point, notice that the cursor changes. It's that anchor point tool now, okay? Automatic, without me having to press any sort of button. What it's going to do, that anchor point tool, what it's doing is it's going to eliminate the curve, okay? If I had a curve, it's going to eliminate the curve. If I had a sharp edge, you can actually bring the curve back. So I'm just going to click one time. Notice that handle is gone. Now, see how it's coming off of that is a sharp point. So I'm just going to, again, go 45 degree angle and pull forward. This time I'm going to go quite a bit a ways out because I want that wave pattern. Clicking and dragging. I'm going to snip that handle, again, 45 degrees forward, quite a bit forward, click and drag. I'm holding that shift key, snipping that handle. And I'm just repeating the process, clicking in the middle. Okay, that's the basic idea of this whole thing. Now, something just really, really quick. if you're drawing and let's say you want to move one of the just a point or whatever. Again, I'm a super big fan of shortcuts, but you don't have to be. You can use these arrow keys. The black arrow is going to move the entire thing and resize it and all that, but the white arrow will allow you to move certain points in that. So let's just say Command will do the same thing, right? But you could go up here and click on that arrow. I'm going to come up here and let's say this point, right? I just made it active. I can come in here and I can move it, right? So if it's in a spot that I don't like, I can move that around. What I can also do, okay, notice that this is a sharp point. If I press that Option key, what it did is it went to that anchor point tool. So now I can take it and I can create, okay, so it started kind of like this, which is a little bit tangled, right? And I didn't like that, so I just kind of untangled it. And I can create a curve out of that point if I wanted to. Okay, so again, like I said before, I'm a huge fan of shortcuts. If you are not, and you want to come in here and you want to go, okay, add an anchor point, but you'd have to be on a path. Okay, so you'd have to, like, if you decide you want one right there, great, you can have one right there. And what that might allow you to do now is come in with that white arrow, and now you can, adjust that and move it. The delete anchor point tool will allow you to come in here and let's say I don't want that one, or I don't want that one. Okay, again, the anchor point has to already be in existence because you have to have something to subtract from it, but that's how you would do it. Let's say I come in with this anchor point tool, right? And if I have to kind of select something first, but let's see here. Oops, white arrow. Let's select this line here. If I grab that anchor point tool, remember what I said, so if it was a sharp point, before you could create a curve out of it, but if it's a curve already, you can come in and create a sharp point, right? So it converts that anchor point from one to the other or back again. I could also come in here and say I changed my mind. Grab it, pull that back out, right? And the curve is back. Okay, so just a couple of tools for you. I would really consider just drawing some of these like lines just to get the feeling for like what you can do with that. Maybe even practicing closing off a shape. So like let's say, just keep it really simple. When you go back to the beginning, notice that that pen tool now has a little open-ended circle down kind of the bottom right, and that just means you're closing the path off. So now it's an object, right? And if it's an object, that means you can have a fill, okay? These lines here, they're not closed. So if you try to have a fill, it's going to look like something like this, all right? And if you're ever tracing something, having a fill can be super frustrating because it might get in your way. So just keep that in mind as you go also. Okay, that is it for today. I hope you all learned something.